Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Making Stencils for Watercolor and More videos. Part 1, we showed you how to cut a stencil, a custom stencil that you've designed. And here in part 2, we're going to show you some techniques and materials that you can use to utilize those stencils that you've made. It includes watercolor, Brusho, acrylic, and alcohol inks. So keep watching and get the imagination going, and after you're done, see what you can create. This is a sample of the stencil used with a sponge and simple watercolors. You will have to keep the watercolors somewhat thick, don't make them too thin, and moisten your sponge before you actually dip it into the paint and then onto the stencil. The following short video will show you the process in making this particular interesting tree with some different colors. Here is a sample done with Brusho, which are watercolor crystals. This has to be one of my favorite uses of a stencil. Brusho in particular can be difficult to handle once water has hit it, whereas with the stencil there can be a little running underneath, which it simply adds. And one thing to remember when using it with your spray bottle water with Brusho, less is usually best. It will continue to activate after you spray that water on, blending and making some very fantastic and beautiful combinations. So remember that and just experiment. And in the next video I'll show you briefly again how I use Brusho with my stencil. You will notice me using a small brush to distribute the crystals. I find that the easiest way. Using the shaker top sometimes puts a little too much. So please have fun and give this one a try, definitely. Here is a sample of the stencil used with basic acrylic paints, phthalo green, a little bit of some sunshine yellow, and a little bit of burnt sienna there for the trunk. When it was partially dry, white was dabbed on to give an effect of snow. Very simple, but you could do all kinds of more elaborate things, but this is just to give you an idea. The actual painting was put onto canva paper, which is sort of a canvas textured paper made by Canson. It can be a lot of fun, but you could also do this on any watercolor paper or any other materials you regularly use with acrylics. The following video will give you a little example of how I did this step by step. This is a sample of alcohol inks, and I have used them on Yupo, which is a very slick polypropylene material that a lot of watercolorists use. It actually resists alcohol and water rather than absorbing it as does standard watercolor paper. This is also going to be demonstrated in another way. I'm going to next show you a sample of the alcohol inks on mineral paper, which is very similar to Yupo in that it has more tooth, or it has more texture to it, and you'll get a totally different effect. So let's look at that mineral paper and alcohol ink before we go on. This is a sample of alcohol inks applied to mineral paper with a stencil. It is a little bit different than the Yupo, as you can see, and it is quite interesting that it seems that the stencil actually makes areas sort of as dams so that the color settles into those areas of the stencil. The basic application of the alcohol inks to both Yupo and mineral paper is very similar. So the following video is the sample of it on mineral paper, but trust me, it's very similar, and I hope you give these a try sometime just to see what variety you can get in your experimentation. So let's take a look at that. Thank you for joining us at Magalia Rose Studios, and hopefully learned a few things that'll be fun for you to experiment with stencils and other materials. I hope you have a chance to visit some of our other videos, and I hope that we see you again soon. Good painting, good stenciling. Bye.